Welcome everybody to Brilliantly Sexy with Devina Kaur. Today it is my honor and pleasure to welcome Dr. Lulu, Dr. Uchenna Uma, who's a medical doctor and she's born and raised in Nigeria but now lives in the United States. And Dr. Lulu is a former lieutenant colonel in the US Army, a board certified pediatrician, global speaker on suicide prevention, three-time best-selling author, and mother of three young boys. She is the CEO of Tina Live and Dr. Lulu's Youth Health Center, both dedicated to at-risk youth and youth suicide. Dr. Lulu, thank you so much for joining us. And before we go any further, because today our show is a little bit focused on suicide prevention, so if there's a trigger that goes off, please come back to the show at a later time because we want you to be safe and healthy even while enjoying the sexy, brilliant show. So thank you so much for being here, Dr. Lulu.
Thank you for having me. I know it's taken us, I think, 2 years to get this to happen. So I'll take that. I don't take that lightly, although it's been a long time coming. So for all it's worth, I'm thankful. Thank you for having the platform for giving people a voice, to be able to just come and speak and share their passion and about their life and the work that they do. So I appreciate that.
Well, thank you so much. And you know what? Suicide prevention, suicide, self-harm, it's such a challenging subject to talk about. And as somebody who's overcome self-harm thoughts, I really appreciate the work you're doing, Dr. Lulu. So I want to just start off the journey by today's show by finding out a little bit about your journey. How did this happen? And I know you've got this experience with, being an international figure, so to say, because you've lived in Nigeria, you're now in the United States. I'm from Canada, I'm born in India, so we've got that in common. And a lot of our listeners have that in common. Yet here we are struggling, many of us, including myself, struggling to fit in, struggling to like ourselves. Please share your wisdom on that.
I think the first thing I'm going to say is I learned something new the other day. If you measure a fish's ability by how it climbs a tree, you will never know how far it can swim. And I think we are all guilty of that. We're all fish out of water. I'm Nigerian, transplanted to America. I'm trying to become as American as I can. But really, I'm Nigerian. I should still always be a Nigerian. And so it should always be judged based on being in the water versus a monkey. Now be judged based on being in the water because monkeys are not known for swimming, but fish are also not known for climbing trees. So I don't know where I was going with that, but I learned that yesterday. I just thought it was so deep.
It is really important.
If we all just can think, and I think that's one of the legacies of the COVID-19 and the pandemic will be that it made everyone do a hard stop and self-reflection, and then morph or pivot or adapt or literally get out. I mean, it's like a survival of the most mindful. It used to be the survival of the fittest. We have Olympic, like literally speaking, Olympic line of COVID-19. And so it's no longer about how fit you are, it's how fast and how swift you can adapt and bounce back really quickly. So resiliency is key. Even if you get COVID-19, some die, some don't die. I don't know what makes one die, what makes one not die, but I do know that life was already hard. And then we tossed in this COVID-19. And I know before you started recording, you asked me how am I doing? And I said, I'm doing better as a pediatrician than I am as a mom. Because I have 3 young men. I have to somehow always pray that they come home every single day because the enemy is just a random person who just feels like they have a right to take someone's life. And there's nothing I can do about it.
Well, yeah, and this is especially true as being a minority in anywhere in the world. My parents are refugees from Pakistan, so we've all got these stories, we've all got these background. um, you know it's a lot of it is ancestral, right? Like you from Nigeria, your boys are here in United States. I assume your boys are born in the United States,
Yeah.
and yet you are still worried about their safety.
I think if there's ever been a time I'll be worried about, coincidentally, my last, I call them man child. So my last man child, my LMC, turns 16 today.
Oh wow.
So he's 16 years old today. He's 5'10" and a half, and wears size 15 and a half shoes. He's a big baby, right? But he's always going to be my baby. Unfortunately, in America, even though he's the most compassionate person in the world, like he's just a gentle giant of all gentle giants. He comes and rubs my back and says, "Mom, how's work?" Most boys don't have connection with, and also want to show it. But when he steps outside the door, America sees him as a black male, which translates to a dangerous man, and therefore out with him. So it's a very, very disturbing concept. And if there's ever been a time when that was an issue, is now more so for some reason. Every racist and every nepotist and every trickster and every bad person has just been given the green light to just go ahead and just be yourself. And so the world is losing compassion as the world has been knocked on its knees, like literally. I don't like to use the word knees because knees mean something different after May 23rd, when George Floyd had Noah's knee on his neck. We right now have been knocked down to our knees because we have a virus that doesn't care if you're Nigerian, or Pakistan, or English, or British, or Indian. The virus is coming. If there's ever been a time when we should really unite and see each other as who we are, humans,
As children of God.
as humanists, yes, we should all be human. And it's good you mentioned that because I used to teach Bible study when I was young, and I try not to toss out God because I never know who, what, where. And even though I'm less religious now, I'm more spiritual now, and I'm more tapping into the energy that I inherited from my ancestors. I do know one thing that God did when He created the earth, the heavens, and the stars, and the fish, and the plants, and He said He looked at everything and said it was good. So God proclaimed that you and I are good. And so the act of not goodness, if that's the thing, is not from God. It's from you and I. Somehow we have said, well, your hair is too short. Well, why should your hair be gold and black? Who do you think you are? You've got red lips. Or, oh, look at her. She thinks she's all that. She's got big boobs. Or he's 6'5". What does he think he can do that my 5'9"? We just start putting roadblocks and judgments. But God said, He looked at all the work He had done and He said it was good. That was the first thing He did. The second thing He did was when He created man, He said, let's create man in our image and likeness. And let's give man a mate. And whether you look at it as a man and a wife, or co-workers, or siblings, or friends, God said, man, you need another man. And man as an entity, because some people will only hear what they want to hear. But what I'm saying is God said, we are good as a world and we need each other. He didn't create one man alone. He said, let me make him a helper. So that means you, Devina, by default, are a helper. I should give you whole space for you. You should let me climb on your shoulders if I need it to hoist myself. We should be what God said. Let me create a helpmate for this man. And then the third thing that God did was He rested on the seventh day. He said He didn't call it Sunday. He said, this seventh day I shall call Sabbath, and on this day I will rest. And one other thing that we have missed completely is the act of saying it's okay because I can't do it. You see, a couple of days ago, we were supposed to do this. You weren't up to it. I didn't say, oh my goodness, Devina, what do you mean you're not up to it? I was like, it's okay, no worries, whenever. Because sometimes you have to say no, and no is a full and complete sentence, and you don't need to justify your no, but we don't know how to do that anymore. And so we say yes, 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 to the point of burnout. And I'm guilty of this because I don't want to say no. I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. But even God on the seventh day rested and said, whew, okay, so today I don't feel like doing anything. And there's a whole song by Bruno Mars. So I think those three things are missing. We're missing the humanist aspect of us. The fact that we should all be human. We should all first be humanists. Oh, here's Devina from Pakistan. Wow. Tell me a little bit about Pakistan. And just right there, I learned about Pakistan versus she's from Pakistan. Isn't it Pakistan? Isn't that where? No. Tell me about your Pakistan. And then I can tell you about my Nigeria. And right there, you've learned something new about Nigeria and vice versa. So I don't even know where I was going with that, but it sounded deep. And I was like, I'm just going to go there.
Well, there's so much to learn from each other, Dr. Lulu. And you know what you said about that the God rested on the seventh day. And yesterday I was listening to a podcast by Charlie Freak, and he spoke about this thing where we as human beings have it all backwards, where we are talking that, you know, that Sunday is their day of rest, but actually it's Sabbath. The seventh day is the seventh day, and sun is the Sunday, which is the first day of the week. But then we are forced to go to church on Sunday, for example, or, you know, Sundays become the day of the holiday. And everything is so messed up in this current system that we live in. It's a broken system. And that's where the fault comes from. That's why we are also broken, because our leaders have failed us, right? But we, you know, let's come back to our what you said about humans needing human beings, and how the work that you do as a pediatrician, especially as CEO of Teen Alive. You know, I want to quickly just mention that, like, what, as a mother, as a Black woman in African American woman in United States, how hard is it for you to do the work that you're doing? And that is to pretty much help prevent teen suicides.
So we'll go back a little bit. I identify myself as a Black woman. So I think the best way I can ever present myself is a Black woman first. I'm a Nigerian American. I don't use the word African American. For those who know better, you know that Africa is a whole entire continent. So I don't even think it's fair. My boys are Nigerian Americans. I'm Nigerian American. And not because Nigeria is better or different, but because Africa is 54 and maybe even some more countries that we don't know plus, right? So each one of us is so unique. My wife is Liberian. I like to say she's 1/3 Liberian, 1/3 British, and 1/3 Jamaican. She's a beautiful mutt. She's got all of that in her. And so we should identify each individual part that makes the whole, and then celebrate the whole as part of the part. So coming to America to practice pediatrics in 1994, I was just bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and just wanted to just make a difference. And I was on that path, and I was, you know, just doing my thing, seeing kids every day in the office. And then in the year 2000, a friend of mine, a 33-year-old doctor, Nigerian girl, killed herself. And 2 weeks before that, I had a feeling that I should call her, and I should just call her, and I must call her, and I didn't. Because I was pregnant with, and I like to show his picture with my middle man child, this one. I was pregnant with this little guy here, this one. And I was like, oh, well, I'm pregnant. I'm having some pregnancy issues. My marriage was already tipping to the left. And I was like, I think about you. I hope you're doing okay, in my mind. And when I finally called her 2 weeks later, her niece said, Oh, and so blew her brains out 2 weeks ago. That put me literally in labor with the little guy, and he was born at 7 months because it was just so devastating for me. That was my first real, what? People kill themselves? What do you mean? And there was, of course, some guilt because I feel like maybe if I had called her. So needless to say, when I think about people to this date, this was 20 years ago. Yeah. 20, because he turned 20 this year. This was 20 years ago. If I think about you, I'm calling you. I'm not texting you. I'm calling until you pick up the phone. And then I had a 15-year-old patient come see me in 2008. He was his mother. He was depressed. His mother wanted me to check him for drugs because she was sure he was using drugs. Because how dare he not want to play football anymore? He's really good at football. He loves football. There must be something else going on. There was something else going on. He was very depressed and he was very suicidal. But his mother was like, if it's just depression, he's going to be just fine. Because I had depression and I did okay. She said to me, and that was the last time I saw him. He put a double-barrel shotgun in his mouth and pulled the trigger. So I'm very happy when you first gave a trigger warning at the beginning of this talk, because I have to give my message with triggers and all, because talking about suicide is actually more about talking about life than about death, but not everyone sees it that way. I talk about it so I can give you the tools you need or make you stop and think just before you do it that you are good enough, which is why I went back and said, God said you were good. I didn't. He said you were good. And if he says you're fearfully and wholly and wonderfully made, then you are. I just need you to see it. And then I had a 7-year-old patient in 2018 who tried to hang himself. I quit medicine. I was like, you know what, God, I hear you. I mean, like literally, like seriously, I get it. That was a 34-year-old, then a 15-year-old, then a 7-year-old. I was like, I'm being called to do something different, obviously, because this is just coming too much. And then the rest is history. And so ironically, my baby who turned 16 today, he was the one that said, so Mom, what are you going to do about it? So I said, I don't know. Because he said, Mom, you look like you've seen a ghost. And I was like, yeah, I saw a 7-year-old today that tried to hang himself. I feel like I saw a ghost. So the long story short is he said, well, Mom, you could come to my school and maybe you could come and talk to the kids in my school. And I was like, bingo. And so things happen for a reason. Needless to say, I haven't stopped speaking about suicide since then. As an African-American woman, as a Black woman, as a Nigerian, but more importantly, as a mother of 3 Black sons in America today, every single time they leave my house to go do anything, whether it's walk the dog, he likes to play basketball, he's a tall kid, whatever it is, I'm just like, make sure you come back. I started saying that about 2 years ago without thinking about it. And then one day he said, Mom, why do you always ask us to make sure you come back? I said, because Trayvon Martin went around the corner to get a bag of Skittles and then come back. So every time I say, make sure you come back, is me also asking my ancestors, because I know you'll get this because you're Pakistani. We're very deep with ancestry stuff. I'm asking them to take my child with them and bring my child back home. So every time he goes to walk the dog, I'm like, make sure you come back. He goes to the mailbox, make sure you come back. It's a very difficult world for me as a Black mother of 3 Black sons. I know God gave me 3 Black sons for a reason, because I wanted a girl. I thought he was going to be a girl. We named him Christina before he was born. I just wrote that on my Facebook page just now, because I was like, oh, it's going to be a girl. And then he came out and he was a boy. So that was a reason. But the point I'm trying to make is Black women, Black boys, Black girls in America, Black children aged 5 through 12 are twice as likely as their white counterparts to die by suicide, statistically speaking. The first study was done in 2015. The second study was done in 2019, October of 2009, October 22nd of 2019. That second study came out and it was identical. 5 to 12 Black kids, they are killing themselves twice as likely as their white kids. So you have to ask yourself the question, what are we not doing right? What is the world? What kind of world are we going to leave to which children if they're all killing themselves. So it's a lot deeper, the talk about suicide. And the main thing I know, just because of my own journey with suicidal ideation myself and wanting to kill myself after my divorce as a Nigerian, and I don't know about Pakistan, but I do know about India because in my second book called A Teen's Life, I discuss 12 different teenagers and how they struggle with life. One of the teenagers is Indian. I'm not going to say what happened to her, but I do know that there's a very high rate of suicide in India. One of the reasons is child marriage and many other reasons, like just patriarchal society where it's all about men and women were beneath the pet. Nigeria is like that. There's
Yeah.
also homophobia. I don't know if you want to say something, go ahead. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah. No, I was going to say that, like mental health is such a taboo subject to talk about. It's like, in fact, like my parents live in India, and actually I do identify myself as an Indian. So it's a little bit like, we've got a big history behind us as well. So my mother, the other day I was actually feeling depressed, and I was kind of like, I had just come back from spending a month at the ashram, and I was, um, having a low after the high of the ashram. So
I
my
remember that. I remember when you went, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, that's so much fun!" And I'm so happy that you said having a low after the high because we're going to talk about that in a second.
Yes.
And big role, big role.
Yeah. And so my mom said, well, if you're so depressed, why don't you call, don't be ashamed of calling a therapist. So I had to like then remind my mother, mom, I have a therapist. I have two therapists because, the work I do, the support that I need, I'm always speaking to the therapist. She's like, well, call your therapist. And I never knew you had a therapist. That's so embarrassing. And then, and I was like, oh my goodness. She was also kind of like embarrassing that probably she doesn't know about it or it's such a taboo subject. And I was like, it's okay. But this is what we have to do. We have to start removing the shame, the stigma associated with our mental health. Talk about our real issues, right? Because our parents want the best for us, but so often they don't know how to help us. So we as children, I'm teaching my parents all the time that it's okay to get help. It's okay to get help with especially professionals, the therapists, and we need to remove that shame and stigma. So Dr. Lulu, please elaborate a little bit on that and talk a little bit about the highs and the lows, please.
Thank you so much for going there. And I know you had said this was going to be about 30 minutes to 45 minutes. I have never yet found an interview that we had an hour or 2 hours and it was enough. I had an event over the weekend that was supposed to be for 3 hours. At 4 hours and 15 minutes, no one was trying to leave. We were demystifying mental illness. We're taking out, and literally the theme of the talk of the event was stop the shame, silence, and stigma of suicide. That's the 5 S's. So you couldn't have come in at a better time, stopping the shame. And I think that's how we connected. The very first time I met you, I was like, wow, what a girl that is not afraid to talk about the fact that she's not perfect. She struggled with her mental health challenges, which is what I like to use the word, because mental illness is actually very specific to 4 diagnoses, and most people don't have that. Most people do not have schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. Most people are just challenged really now, like now, for instance, like with the COVID. And so it causes or anxiety or depression, which is the other two. Most people don't think about that. So you don't have a chemical, you don't just suddenly, you're fine in January and all of a sudden in March, because of the COVID, you develop a chemical imbalance. No. What has developed is your world, your milieu, your center, your epicenter has been shaken. And you're like, oh my God, what just happened? Do I have any processes in place so I can have a soft landing? Or have I just always just been just smooth sailing, never even thought that I would ever need to talk to someone? And I'm like you, I was actively suicidal for about 6 months in my life. And when I went public with it, that video got like 15,000 views because what is she, what's wrong with her? She's a doctor. Why is she saying that she's struggling with suicidal ideation? And I said, if my truth is what's gonna bring me down as a doctor, I'm gonna stand with my truth. And then I know one guy had said to me, "Oh, make sure you don't say that too loud because the Texas Medical Association is gonna come and get you." Well, guess what happened? The Texas Medical Association came and interviewed me and put me on the front page of the magazine because you have to be honest with the fact that this is real. And then one of the senators wanted me to come, and I had to go to the State House to testify about the fact that we need to increase more awareness for mental health health illness and struggles in minorities. Sometimes you just have to stand in your truth and just let the chips fall. So absolutely, I love what she said. About the low though, my very first time I had an event, I had my first event. It was I call it parenting your teen conference or something. I had prayed to God to let me have, I said, if I can have 12 people come to this event, Father Lord, I'll be so happy. I had 37 people. And then I had those 37 people. I was so thankful. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God. People came to the event. They said it was awesome. They learned. And it was such a high. I didn't prepare for the afterlow. I wasn't suicidal, but I was so down. And I was like, what the fuck? And that was the first and last time that happened. And so now every time I just did my 6th event. Every time I have an event, I have a plan for my after event low. So I ask anyone who does anything major, do have a plan. I promise you, if you put that plan in place, it's going to be a more steady decline. Otherwise, it goes boom. I was on a guy's podcast, and you should probably be on his podcast. It's called Before You Kill Yourself. His name is Leo Flowers. And one of the things he talked about, the second time he called the suicide hotline or I think the first time was after he had just finished, he's a comedian in Las Vegas. He had just finished a sold out show that was hugely successful, fantastic. He did so well. He got a standing ovation. And then he gets into his hotel room after everything is done, and he wants to jump off the blind because of that low. So I taught him that day to always, as much as you prepare for your event, prepare for your after event. And so this last time I just had my event on Saturday. For my after event, I took my baby son to go practice because he's turning 16, like I said today, to go do his driving, to practice. I taught all my boys how to drive. And so I had that already set. And then we went to dinner. And then, I had all this set so that after my event, I don't have what do I do now? Because what happens is imposter syndrome kicks in. Who do you think you are that you should have an event that was so successful? Why do you think you're all that now? And then you let those thoughts come in. And then what happens? You start going down. So that was a great point you made.
This is such a great what you're saying is so beautiful, because we have in life, we're going to go through many things, some of them planned, most of them unplanned, and it's all about knowing who you are, knowing what you need in this moment, and then practicing radical self-acceptance, which is the acceptance of the highs, but also acceptance of the lows. And nobody's teaching this to us in schools, right? Like, we don't learn this anywhere. Radical self-acceptance is so alien. But the more self-acceptance we have, the more love we can have for ourselves, the more care we can have for ourselves. And one of the ways that I find myself going, like managing my lows, is really like just self-management. What am I? Who am I? And what do I need in this moment?
This moment, yes, exactly.
In this moment, right? Like, So it's on a really a moment to moment basis, and none of us have figured it out. Like, I'll tell you something, Dr. Lulu, and you're gonna understand where I'm coming from. Um, I have all of the success on, in my life. I have a radio show. I'm a producer. I'm a published author. I have a podcast. I have millions of followers. Yet I still feel like a loser, right?
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah. So
Imposter syndrome. And I mentioned that earlier on, that's what people that who do you think you are? So here's, and I don't know, and I don't know where you're going with this, but remind me, because I might not remember. Remind me to tell you what I do to help with my own imposter syndrome. But go ahead.
no, it's the same thing. Like, I want to learn from you, and I know my audience wants to learn from you as to how to manage that imposter syndrome, which shows up in me, it shows up in you, it shows up in everybody, right? Because insecurity is really a very powerful enemy. And the thing is, the way we look, we hold a microscope over ourselves, our work, our well-being, our health. Nobody else does the same to us. So we are very, very self-critical, right? And that's where we want to change. The more we change, understand, first of all, we need to understand who we are, and then accept, and then change what we don't like about ourselves, including the imposter syndrome. So I just want you to give us some tools, concrete tools, to manage all of the emotions that show up, and then, in your experience, whatever has worked.
With imposter syndrome, certainly, I almost don't believe it is even possible to completely not have it. And I do go back to the Bible again, not because this is a Christian show, but because I used to teach Bible study. And I always talk about Jesus the man, and not Jesus the God, which most people in today's world have it backwards. They look at Jesus the God, and then he's up there, up almost unattainable. But I always see Jesus as the man, Jesus as the 12-year-old who challenged his mother. What do you mean you were looking for me for 3 days? Did you not know I would be in my father's house? Did you check there? Mom, in today's world, that's an attitude, right? For a 12-year-old. Jesus, the young adult who went to the wedding, and his mother was like, yo, Jesus, they're out of wine. He's like, woman, my time hasn't come. Like, back off, mother. Attitude. Jesus, the man. And then what happened? His mother said to them, she said, well, do whatever he says. And he was like, oh, good. I could just see him now, like, oh my God. All right, whatever. And he turned the water to wine. And then it was the best wine ever. And the people at the wedding were like, you saved the best wine to the end. Jesus, the man. Jesus, the man who went into the garden to pray and say, Father, Lord, I know you want me to do this, but please, can you take this chalice away from me? Because I don't, imposter syndrome. I don't think I'm worthy. I don't think I can do it. Please, if it's your will, can I just not die tonight? But then again, let your will, not mine, be done. Jesus, the man, imposter syndrome. But the ultimate form of Jesus, the man, is the one that was on the road to Calvary, that fell not once, not twice, but 3 times under the weight of the cross. And so if Jesus, if he really did exist, if he really walked on this earth, and we take him for who he is, as half God and half man, or 100% God and 100% man, and he fell 3 times under the weight of the cross and reached out and was like, guys, I can't. And I always feel emotional when I talk about this, because even Jesus reached out for help, and the guys were like, listen, he's not gonna make it unless we let someone else carry his cross for him. And what did they do? They've called upon Simon of Cyrene and said, Simon, you help him carry his cross. 2 things are happening. I look at the Bible as more philosophical than more religious. Like I said, I'm not too much religion anymore. 2 things are happening. One person who God created in his image and likeness, and God brought another person. He said, I'm going to give you a helper. Remember what I said at the beginning? Simon, to help him carry his cross. For as far as Jesus needed help with the cross, till they got to Golgotha. I want you to see that as in today's world, you, Devina, saying, I'm falling, I need help. I'm going to reach out for help. It is easier for people to say yes than I need help. Those three words, nobody wants to say I need help ever. But Jesus on the third fall could barely get up. And those guys were like, y'all, he's not going to make it. And I'm just in that place looking at saying, he was like, guys, please, can I just get some help? And somebody came and helped him. Will you be the person that's going to come and help Jesus carry his cross, i.e. me when I'm down? Again, going back to what I said, give me your shoulders to lean on when I'm down. Or am I going to be the one who is down and saying, Devina, I need you right now. And will you have time? And then going back to the year 2000, when my middle son was born, when somebody's spirit was calling me for 2 weeks, she was calling me and I didn't listen. I didn't call her, but her spirit was telling me, I need you. And when I called, she had killed herself. I have forgiven myself because I'm not about living in that world anymore. But what I'm doing is I'm using that experience to propel myself. So first of all, every time I feel like calling somebody, I'm calling them. Second of all, I'm doing this work to see if I can save one person a day. Because believe it or not, the WHO predicted that by the year 2020, we will have one suicide every 20 seconds. So however long we've been speaking, Devina, do the math. And that is only for those suicides that are recorded. We don't know how many suicides out there. We're only thinking based on a prediction. It used to be 1 in 40 seconds.
That's, oh my goodness, this is such an emotional subject. I mean, like, I've cried and Dr. Lulu's crying, and it really is very, very sensitive, right? Like, we really, I feel those times that I wanted to kill myself. I feel like it's not me, but yet it's still me. And I actually, Dr. Lulu, I wrote a blog about this and I did a video about this, and I said, it's on my YouTube channel, where I said, if you're thinking about killing yourself, please read this first. Please watch this video first. And I really said, that, the pain was so bad, but it's not the pain. It's not the whole pain. It's the pain, that little pain that I want to change. It is so bad that I want to end it. Mm-hmm. And that's what it really is. It's like when we have to start disassociating ourselves with our emotions. Our emotions really are a gift, but also we got to have a little bit of detachment. So we can.
Yes, we have to have a check. We have to tell. So here's the thing about that, and we can go into that because I do thought work with my patients, and I use 3 A's, very simple. The first A, honestly, Devina, is to acknowledge the thought. So first of all, in the day's time, you have up to 120 thoughts per day. Of those 120, 80% of them are negative thoughts. And human beings by nature, we stack the negative thoughts. So the first thing you need to do is acknowledge that thought when it comes. What I tell my teenagers, because I work with teenagers, is I said, let them come to the door, open the door, but don't let them come in and take a seat, and don't give them a drink. In other words, acknowledge the thought. I see you. And then analyze the thought for veracity. Analyze it for truth. Am I really not good enough? Am I really, truly not good enough? Because that's what it's telling you. You're so bad, you need to kill yourself. I mean, I don't know the words for everybody. Everybody's words are different. For my own, the day I was driving down the highway, I was going, 85 to 95 miles an hour. I had my rooftop of my convertible was down. I had no seatbelt on. I was trying to find an opening on the highway to drive off, and I wanted to make sure that I didn't survive that fall, that drive off. My thoughts were racing. You're bad. You're a bad mother. You're divorced. You're a black woman. I was hearing my ex-husband telling me, nobody will ever love you. You're never going to be good enough for anything. When I was molested at 9 years old, I started telling myself, you probably deserve to be molested because you followed him. But he was a guy that the whole neighborhood loved him. He was everybody's friend. But that's what he betrayed me. Then I was bullied in a school bus by all the kids when I was going to school. That came because you deserve to be bullied. And then I was in high school, and then I was raped in medical school. And that came to, yes, you deserve to be raped because you went to his room in the campus. You should have never gone to his room. All of these things. Now, these are about 7 or 8 big traumatic events. But I've had 7 or 8,000 good things that I've done. They were not coming to me at that point. So whenever you see yourself going there, I need you to a hard stop. Acknowledge the thoughts, analyze it, and banish it, because 9 times out of 10, it is untrue. Your amygdala, the part of your brain that holds on to emotions and memories and fear and anxiety, goes into overdrive and starts telling you all these bad things. You need to scream loud if you have to. Tell the thought to stop. And nothing changes that like action. And so the 3A is act. Act based on your reality that, you know what, I'm a great pediatrician. I'm a fantastic wife. I'm a good cook. I'm an awesome mom. I know this because my kids tell me that. I have born 3 boys and I raised 3 of them by myself. And one of my sons graduated with honors from Stanford University. Like, he's got 100% scholarship in graduate school. I did that. I have to remind myself. But then set a goal, even if it means doing your laundry or folding your socks or cooking dinner. I need you to replace that with something. But the best thing I do for my patients is ask them to call 5 of their friends and tell the 5 friends, Dr. Lulu said, how can I make your day better today? Right away, you're taking off the intrusive thoughts and you're focusing on something good for somebody else. Going back to God saying, you need each other. We need each other. So rather than staying in that hopelessness and helplessness, I get it. Trust me, I've been there. I want you to say, okay, I'm going to call Susan. Hey, Suze, what's going on? Hey, you want to meet up for coffee or ice cream? Okay, I'll meet you in 5 minutes. So, Susan, how have you been, girl? I missed you. And if Susan doesn't pick up the phone, call Shaniqua, call Bonquisha, call somebody and make their day better. You don't know until you try that maybe that person was waiting for your phone call. And so, while I can't fix everything, just start. Go ahead.
And so the act of helping others makes us feel good about ourselves, right? And we can only help others when we are whole and complete ourselves. And then, guys, like, it's really very important. It's time for team humanity. There is no, the Bhagavad Gita, the Quran, the Bible, all the holy books talk about the same thing. It's about team humanity. It's about being there for each other and for helping, first help yourself and then help others. And it all starts with self-knowledge, radical self-acceptance, and from there, being your own best friend, really. And something very important you said, Dr. Lulu, is to ask for help. If you are struggling, please ask for help. Reach out, call a friend, call a therapist, call your support system. That's where the change starts happening. And I know for myself, and I can 100% say for Dr. Lulu as well, that many people have helped us achieve our success in many, many different ways, from coaches to therapists to support system to pediatricians to momatrician, as Dr. Lulu is. So many of us, and here we are at Sexy Brilliant. Our social mission, we are 100% nonprofit foundation to remove toxic shame. So that's why we're doing what we're doing, because our mission is to help as many people as we can. So as we're coming to the end of the show, like you said, Dr. Lulu, 40 minutes is not enough. Half an hour is not enough. 5 hours with you is not enough. You're also very, very interesting, and you are a very profound speaker, a TEDx speaker, as well as a United Nations representative. So we are so grateful that you are here. Guys, make sure that you're following Dr. Lulu. Connect with Dr. Lulu, and we will be putting up all her information in, under this recording. So make sure you follow it. Check us out on sexybrilliant.org as well. We are a 100% nonprofit foundation. We appreciate all your purchases, your donations. And before we end, Dr. Lulu, at the end of every show, we pull sexy, brilliant empowerment cards.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So please choose a number from 1 to, what's your favorite number?
69. I was born in 69.
69. We don't have 69 cards. I see your tattoo, 69.
Yeah, 69.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So I guess you could pick a 6 or a 9.
Oh, I love, you know what? Number 9. It's the number of higher consciousness. So let's choose that card.
That's awesome, because if you turn 6 upside down, it's a 9. So I'll take a 9.
Yeah, I think that's 9. Okay, we got it.
Uh-oh.
Oh my goodness, this card.
What is that, a vajayjay?
It says, the card says, open up, and it says, life is too precious to spend time worrying. Turn your frustrations into brilliant light that illuminates all around you. The more you show an interest in life and the people around you, the more interesting you become. When we love life with all our hearts, the universe sends us with more love.
I love it. I love it. I wish I could get a copy of that. I love it. That is perfect. That is definitely me. That's me right there. That's me. Where can I get that card from? It's from the .org.
Yes, our cards are available on sexybrilliant.org.
Guys, yeah.
So guys, check it out on sexybrilliant.org. They're called Sexy Brilliant Empowerment Cards, and lots of videos about them on YouTube, as well as on the website. And this message is so timely. Open up. It's like, open up. We've been talking about that. Open up to the professionals, open up to your friends, to your support group, and then most importantly, be there for each other. Help as many people as you can. That always makes us feel good. Thank you so much, Dr. Lulu, for coming on our show. We're so humbled.
I had a blast. Thank you so much for having me over. I hope your listeners learn a thing or two. I mean, everybody has it all. I think one thing that we all need to definitely not do is that search for perfection, which really doesn't exist. We see that there's no perfect self. There's only progress. You can only, practice makes progress. And so the more you practice, the more you progress in your practice. And that's why it's called practice.
Love it. Beautifully said. And very important, guys, if this video was helpful, please make sure to share it, email it to your friends, to your anybody. We're all parents, mothers, fathers. Please send it across so that we as a community can help others who are going through the same thing. Dr. Lulu, thank you so much. And guys, thank you for tuning in to Brilliantly Sexy with Devina Kaur. We are humbled and honored to have you with us. Namaste.
Namaste.